Welcome to this video. This video is all about how to transform limiting beliefs in your manifestation process, specifically in my 8-step manifestation process. This is step 3. If you want all 8 steps in a beautiful journal PDF, you can, in the description below, grab the free manifestation journal. If you're new here, I'm Nicole Ray, spiritual life coach. Love talking all about manifesting. So I want to talk about step 3 and really the importance of shifting beliefs. You've probably heard about it in other mindset work. You've probably heard about it in other manifestation work, that one of the main focuses as we go to manifest something into our lives is assessing whether or not we actually believe it's possible. Because if you don't believe it's possible, you're literally cutting off your power and your ability to draw it to you and to manifest it into reality. In fact, by not believing that it's possible, there's a part of you that will actually resist it and not actually be able to see it come to fruition. So how do we do this when we're doing the conscious work of manifesting? The thing that I like to recommend is for you to actually inventory your beliefs. So if you're able to, in a journaling session, actually get out and ask yourself, what do I believe about this thing that I'm manifesting? And if you can, just let yourself flow with it. Let yourself go ahead and write whatever it is that you believe about it. And there might be some beliefs that are supportive to this manifestation coming to fruition, but you might find that there are some beliefs there that aren't supportive. And those are the ones that you're going to go to work on to transform. So I want to make sure that I give you as much as possible in this video as you go to work on it. And my light was about to fall. So you're going to choose that limiting belief that you have identified, and then list out all of the reasons that you believe that belief. So in other words, like, what is all the evidence for that belief? In the context of manifesting a relationship, you might even be able, you don't necessarily have to write it down. If you're someone that just can kind of think through and process things that way, that's totally fine. You might have reasons based off of how you feel about yourself, how you feel about your own worthiness. So that might be an area to go to work on. You might have past relationships that have not gone well, or past dating situations that have not gone well, and that might be subconscious evidence as to why you don't believe. And then take a look at, are you getting something out of not actually believing in the thing? Usually we hold on to perceptions and beliefs because they serve us in some way, and it's not always like the funnest thing to confront about ourselves. But when we do, when we can look that there is a gain or a payoff that we're getting by holding on to this belief, we actually start to release its hold over us and release its power over us, and it gives us more power to actually transform it. So in other words, if it's a certain amount of money, if you walk around believing that you're not worthy, well, then the gain from believing that you're not worthy is you never actually have to put yourself out there or take a risk or apply yourself, right? And so in a way, you get to stay safe. So this belief work goes pretty deep, and I would definitely, with all the work that I do, I always recommend being super gentle with yourself as you go through it. So now that you've identified that gain, then go ahead and take a look at the cost. What is it costing you? So if you're believing that you're unworthy of a certain amount of money, and you've listed like, well, if I keep believing that, then I get to play it safe. Well, then what's the cost of that? The cost of that is that you never actually get to see what you're made of. You never actually get to fulfill your potential, because you wouldn't have this desire for more if it wasn't a potential for you, right? So look at the cost of holding on to that belief. What is it costing you to hold on to it? And what are you getting out of it? And then go ahead and question it again. Is this the ultimate truth? Did God or your higher power come down from the heavens and say, this is the truth? And when I talk about truth, I mean like the ultimate divine truth. Is it the ultimate divine truth that you are not worthy of this? And that would be a no. And in most cases, it's not an ultimate truth. It's just a perception that we're holding on to because it's easy, because it's comfortable, because it's something that was inherited from our previous experiences. And it's something that we've been thinking and believing habitually for so long. That's usually why a belief's there. It's not necessarily that it's the actual truth. And then what is the new belief that you want to put in place? So you've inventoried your beliefs. You've isolated one or two beliefs that you're like, okay, this is the belief that I can see is in the way of my manifestation. And this is the belief that I'm choosing to go to work on. So then you're looking at, all right, what's the gain? What did I get out of this? What's the cost and the payoff of me holding on to this? And once you've gotten really honest with yourself about that, you've then checked in and said, all right, well, is this belief ultimately true or not? And most likely you've identified, no, this is not the truth. Then you're like, okay, I'm choosing to release this belief. What is the new belief? It's difficult to release an old limiting belief without replacing it with a new belief. If you think of it in terms of your neurology, every thought that you think is an actual neural pathway. You have neural pathways for all sorts of things, for movements, for emotions. If we think of this in terms of a thought or a belief having its own neural pathway, then creating the new belief, it's like creating a new neural pathway. Now, that old neural pathway will never go away. You'll always have the potential to go down that neural pathway. But by creating the new neural pathway, you'll actually have the option now. So rather than just releasing an old belief, then that pathway, then there's nowhere to go with it, right? But we give it a new belief, a new perspective, a new thought. And that is why things like affirmations or anchoring or emotional freedom technique or hypnosis or journaling, those tools are so powerful because it gives you this opportunity to reinforce the new thought, the new belief, and therefore that new neural pathway. When you're going to release a limiting belief, you're going to want to identify what that new belief that you're putting in place of it, so that anytime that old limiting belief starts to come up, you have the new thought and the new belief to go to. So, what is the new belief that you're choosing to believe? And then what is the evidence that you have for that belief? So maybe it's an amount of money that you're choosing to manifest or to earn on a monthly basis. One of your evidence markers could be that you've seen other people make that amount of money. Or just simply that you know that out of the billions of people that are on this planet, you know that there are several people that are making that amount of money. So that could be evidence of it. If you're manifesting a relationship, you could have seen or know of the type of relationship that you want to be in, or the type of couple that is a role model for you. The point here is we're not just pulling some thought or some belief like out of the sky, right? We're really building some evidence and putting some energy behind it, so that as you're putting that new thought pattern and that new neural pathway in place, it actually has some momentum behind it because you have that believability factor around it. And then choosing a new way of being that's aligned with this new belief. So if the new belief is that you are going to be earning a certain amount of money, then the way of being could be being prosperous or being abundant. And now you actually have a sensation, because when you are being abundant, you can actually start to identify some emotions that you're feeling around that. You can feel that. There might be certain things that you're seeing. You might be more present in the moment. That way of being brings an energy to it. And so now you have this new belief, and I highly recommend creating an affirmation, perhaps even putting that affirmation in your calendar once or twice a day to pop up for you to say out loud and really affirm. I highly recommend journaling it out if you're a big journaler. I know some people love just putting sticky notes like on their computer, on their bathroom mirror, so that when you see that note, your subconscious mind is taking it in, but it's also an opportunity to stop and say that out loud. And I think I said this already somewhere in this video, but I really think it's important to reinforce, which is funny because what I was going to talk to you about is reinforcement. So you're literally conditioning your mind. Now, if you have ever heard of the study called Pavlov's dog, this was where Pavlov really discovered that conditioning was a thing. He discovered that conditioning is something that occurs in dogs, and then stated the question, well, if it happens with dogs, could it happen with humans too? And long story short, they discovered, yes, it does. Conditioning does happen. So what do I mean? I'll find a video about Pavlov's dog and link it in the description below. But my point is that when you are creating a new belief for yourself, this is about conditioning and reinforcing that new belief and that new perception. And I know in the world of manifestation, we tend to talk about things in the airy-fairy spiritual, and I love all that stuff. But conditioning your mind for a new mindset actually might require some discipline. It might require not like a negative force, but some firmness, some assertiveness. Your mind might start to go down a different path, and you have to assert it to go in the pathway that you want it to go down. And so I want you to give yourself permission to be disciplined about it. Some of the most amazing manifestations that I have brought to fruition were because I was disciplined for, like, no joke, 6 months. And in fact, the manifestation that I'm referring to is when I manifested the lump sum of $100,000. I know for a fact what brought that $100,000 to me was me literally believing in it every single day for 6 months. I'm not kidding you. I put it in my phone that the affirmation was, you're about to receive more money than you've ever received before. And religiously, when the calendar notification came up, I read it out loud. Whenever doubts would start to come about, I would bring myself back and say, nope, I'm choosing to believe. And really, I did it as an experiment. Like, before I became a professional coach, I wanted to make sure that I was testing these theories, that I was experiencing these things, that I was literally having these windfalls come in, so that when I'm talking and teaching to somebody, I'm talking from the real deal. It's not just something that I made up. So my point is, as you're doing this belief work, as you're moving through the steps, if it's not all coming super easy to you and you're having to discipline yourself a little bit, be a little firm, and keep taking that action every day, the action of saying the affirmation or believing the new belief, I just want you to know you're not alone, and actually you're doing it right if you're doing that. All right, so that's all I have for you on step 3. In step 4, we'll be talking about creating your vision. If you haven't gotten the journal yet, it's in the description below. Come find me on the socials, and I will talk to you in the next one.